The Battle of Landskrona was fought on the Ilest Moor, outside the town of Landskrona, in southern Sweden on July 14, 1677, between Sweden and Denmark. Prelude. On July 12 the Swedish army of 10,000 men had been reinforced with 4,000 peasants from Småland and left its camp near Klippen to march south. The Swedes planned to attack the Danish army that had been weakened by losses at Malmö before reinforcements could arrive from Germany and Austria, via Landskrona. The Danes, however, had already returned to Landskrona and camped on the hills west of the town. The battle. Early in the morning of July 14, Charles XI formed his army into 4 columns and started advancing towards the Danes. But as soon as the Swedes got the enemy camp in sight, they noticed that it was empty. This caused some confusion among the Swedish generals. Most of them assumed that Christian V had retreated to Landskrona and that the Swedes should abort the operation. However, Charles was determined to deliver battle and kept his army marching towards the Danish camp. During the night, Christian had moved his army down from the hills and lined it up behind an earth wall with the intention of ambushing the Swedes on the moor. The Swedish general Ascherberg spotted the Danish troops behind the wall. The Swedish army paused for about 1 hour and at 9 o'clock formed itself into 2 lines at the northeast end of the moor. Although his generals advised against it, Christian decided to leave his favorable position behind the wall and attack the Swedes. The 2 armies started advancing towards each other and were soon separated only by a small valley. The artillery exchanged fire, but none of the sides were willing to attack across the dale. Finally, Charles XI and his guard on the right wing charged down the slope and up to the other side. They were immediately surrounded and almost taken prisoner, but saved by the household cavalry. The rest of the Swedish right wing followed and the battle began. After less than 1 hour the Danish left wing was routed and the Danish artillery was in Swedish hands. On the Danish right, Christian V outflanked the Swedes, and when Field Marshal Simon Grundl-Helmfelt was killed, the Swedish left wing was scattered. However, backed up by the 4,000 peasants, the Swedes managed to escape and reorganize their left wing. In the center, the Danes took the initiative when General Rusensteiner attacked soon after both flanks were engaged. But as his left flank was unprotected, it took a lot of punishment and the Danish centre slowly started dissolving. At the same time, Christian could not make the left flank of the Swedish centre bulge. When the Swedish cavalry that had pursued the Danish left wing returned to the battle at the same time, the Swedish left wing was ready for action. Christian V left the field at 1600. By 1800 all Danish troops had quit the field and the Swedes retired to the former Danish camp. Aftermath. Reasons for the Danish defeat are said to be rivalry between Danish generals and that the Danish units had been mixed up during the night. The Danes also failed to exploit their success on the right wing, which gave the Swedes time to reorganize their units. Though unquestionably a Swedish victory, the battle had little influence on the outcome of the war. As long as the Danes were victorious at sea and held the fortified town of Landskrona, they could easily bring reinforcements to Scania. The Swedish army now counted 7,000 men, but this was not enough to take Landskrona. After a couple of skirmishes around Kristianstad, the main part of the Swedish army marched back north to Sweden proper to find winter quarters, while Christian V shipped some of his troops back to Zealand.